Welcome back, folks. Well, here we are, the end of the Mother Marathon, just 3 videos in, and the only review that actually has the word Mother in its video title. Mother 3, as a bunch of you most likely already know, is the only game in the series that hasn't seen an international release at the time of this video, and it just turned 10 years old around a month ago, which is funny because that's also around how long this game was in development. You thought Earthbound taking 5 years to complete was bad. Holy shit, this game took 12. Originally scheduled for a late SNES release, Mother 3 was reworked to be a Nintendo 64 title, intended to be the first 3D game in the series. Plans to utilize the Japanese-only dual-disc system for added power were even considered, but the project was eventually thought too complex at the time to fulfill what developers had in mind, and it was quietly cancelled at the turn of the millennium. Development for Mother 3 was soon restarted as a Game Boy Advance title, after the release of that Mother 1 and 2 compilation I mentioned in the Earthbound Beginnings video. The compilation reignited interest in the sequel that never was, causing the Mother community to rally up and tell developers to give Mother 3 another chance. And in 2006 that finally happened. Fans finally got their third installment of the Mother series, at least those in Japan did. International supporters for years have clamored for an official release of Mother 3. The closest we ever got was Lucas's inclusion in Super Smash Bros. Brawl and its sequel. Random thought, what would Mother 3 be called here now that I think about it? I doubt Earthbound 2, unless we want to reflect how Final Fantasy was handled in naming during the 90s. What do you guys think? Well, demand for this game getting an official translation was apparently so strong that some folks took it upon themselves and went and translated the whole game for English-speaking countries. The Mother 3 fan translation, made possible by a community of people with major assistance from one Clyde Mandolin, often labeled under his alias Tomato or Tomato. The guy is a professional game translator, having history with titles like Kingdom Hearts 2 and anime like Dragon Balls. He's got plenty under his belt. Folks now technically have a way to experience Mother 3, and sure enough, this is how I'll be playing it myself. And I realize this is sort of cheating, fan translation or not, it's still not an official copy of Mother 3, but at this point I'm willing to bend the rules slightly for the sake of the marathon, and if one day North America ever gets an official release, I'll be sure to buy it on principle alone. Support game developers when you can, folks. They got bills to pay too. Well, I think I'm ready to head into this game now. Didn't think highly of Earthbound Beginnings, and Earthbound wasn't exactly my cup of tea, or cup of coffee in this case. How will Mother 3 fare? Well, I tell you, if those rumors are true in any sense, then this video is already on the verge of being outdated by how many times I call this game Mother 3, but what are you gonna do? And it goes without saying, folks, Mother 3 is not out here in America. Spoiler warnings are in Omega level Sanction 5, because I'm talking about the story. That's what I do. Now, the one thing I immediately noticed, we're naming all of our central protagonists again, but they're all relatives. 2 brothers named Lucas and Claus, their father named Flint, their mother named Hanawa, and their pet dog, which I think is supposed to be Boney? Not sure on that, but are we having a more centralized cast here? Oh shit, could this mean actual character development, interaction? Alright, I'm listening. And I can see that they're a pretty wholesome family, living a comfortable country life, beating up mole crickets and roughhousing with friendly fucking dinosaurs. There's that Earthbound quirkiness, that didn't take long. Our family here are just a couple of residents in the village of Tasmily, located on the Nowhere Islands. Nowhere Islands. I should have named the dog Courage. Everyone here seems to live peaceful lives, but one night an army of folks dressed as pigs suddenly show up and start a massive forest fire. The father Flint quickly makes his way to the forest to help out in any way he can, and he manages to rescue some townsfolk, but after the fire is doused, he begins to worry about his family who haven't returned from their visit to their grandparents up north. The search begins for Flint's family, and thanks to the help of his fellow neighbors, Flint soon encounters the pig army up in the mountains. The pig armies begin to turn wildlife into half-mechanical chimeras, and they release one to kill Flint, but he manages to slay the beast with the help of the family dog and Duster, another villager. Flint's children are soon found, but in a tragic twist, the mother is found dead, killed by what is told to be a Drago, the usually peaceful dinosaurs. In a heart-wrenching fit of emotion, Flint lashes out on those around him and is eventually locked away in the town prison until he settles down. The older brother of the 2 twins, Claus, helps his father escape and soon disappears. As the family and town grieve over the loss of Hanawa, the young Lucas accidentally reveals that Claus plans on avenging their mother alone and vanish from town. Flint now begins his search for Claus with the assistance of Grandpa Alec, who believes Claus went to the 6 Magypsies, magical beings that are neither male or female but still look like middle-aged men in drag getup. Yep. They point Flint to the Drago Plateau, and as soon as the 2 head there, they spot more members of the pig army, and eventually a Drago that's been converted into a mechanical chimera, the very same that killed Hanawa. Flint's able to neutralize it, but doesn't deliver the killing blow as the Drago's child soon jumps in to protect its transformed mother, reminding Flint of his recent loss. Flint leaves the plateau, unable to locate his missing child, completely unaware that he lies unconscious just below the plateau not too far off. But now our focus switches to Duster. He's sent on a mission from his father, Wes, to retrieve a shiny artifact from the abandoned castle just north of the village. Duster gets the shiny artifact, returns to his father, and it turns out to be the wrong item. I thought that was pretty funny, but now Wes sends Duster back to the castle, this time with his accompaniment, and soon they run into a young girl with a spunky attitude named Kumatora, a proficient user of PSI abilities. Together they locate the actual shiny object, an egg, of great importance to Wes, but the victory is short-lived as the pig army soon invades the castle and attempt to steal the egg from them. The trio manage to make it out with their lives, but during the escape, Duster is separated from the party with the egg, leaving Wes and Kumatora to wonder about their lost friend. And now our attention shifts to this random-ass monkey. Boy, this game is throwing me for a loop. Here I'm thinking we got a game where this family is going on an adventure, but the mom dies, the older brother disappears. Fuck, man. And I got this small monkey repeatedly getting tortured by this jerk-off named Facade, who threatens the monkey's girlfriend if he doesn't cooperate. So this guy here, Facade, is in collaboration with the pig army to begin spreading their influence across Tazmily Village, which involves selling the townspeople happiness through happy boxes. I didn't get what those were at first. I'm thinking some sort of booby trap that activates on Facade's command, but no, that's just what this game calls television, kitchen appliances, and other things. Yeah, there's obviously a bigger play at work here, but the monkey, known as Salsa, is too busy dealing with getting zapped constantly to really care. Luckily, he soon receives the aid of Kumatora and Wes, who realizes the monkey is being forced to work with Facade against his will and helps him escape. Kumatora and Wes know that Facade is up to no good, but the man quickly sends the pig army after the two. It's kind of overkill, really. He sends a couple of tanks after the heroes, but out of nowhere, Lucas arrives with a family of friendly Dragos to send the pig army packing, and thus the day is temporarily saved, and I say temporarily because we're just getting started here. What I just summarized was the prologue of Mother 3, and I thought Kingdom Hearts 2 was loaded, but it's not really a bad thing here. The first 3 chapters are used to develop Tazmily Village and everyone that occupies it, the main family, the neighbors, how the pig army affects their way of living. The purpose is to make these people feel like, actual people. It's a little unorthodox, considering here I am thinking the game would begin with Lucas and no one else but Lucas until the end credits, given how Earthbound Beginnings and Earthbound handle characters and their surroundings, but no. Mother 3 insists on introducing and developing the world around the small boy first, and I dig that. Makes me interested in what happens to this place, and things begin to take a turn for the worse in some regards, starting with Chapter 4, where Lucas finally becomes the central protagonist. 4 chapters into this 8-chapter game, and we're now in control of Lucas. I mean, wow. And not only that, we're skipping around 3 years ahead. Despite Kumatora and Wes calling off Facade for his bullshit, the pig army's influence has managed to sink deep into Tazmily Village, and now it's looking more like a modern town, something you'd see in Earthbound. The pig army are the law now, representing the great King P. Technology is more rampant, there's public transportation, the concept of money is now introduced, and the townspeople are getting accustomed to all this. Oh, look at the cute little frog in a sports convertible. That's so adorable. There's a whole nature versus technology theme going on here. That much is very obvious. You can even see it in the title screen. It's a story arc to the village as a whole, but to what end does this theme serve, I'm not clear on. And I doubt it's as simple as technology is evil, because 1, you need an electronic device to even experience Mother 3, and 2, that would seem pretty shallow, I guess that's the word I'm looking for. But now the focus is entirely on Lucas and his growth as a boy that no longer has a mother, and his brother Claus, who after 3 years is still missing. Still living in the same house as before, Lucas and his father are constant victims of seemingly random lightning strikes, but as we soon find out, the lightning strikes seem to only hit those that don't have a happy box in their house. Christ, imagine if Best Buy summoned the light of judgment if you didn't own a TV. I'm now imagining Best Buy being run by Kefka Palazzo. Word has it that a man looking remarkably like the missing Duster has appeared, playing songs at Club Titty Boo as the basis for DCMC. I know I should be making fun of the obvious homage to AC/DC, but frankly, I'm too distracted with Club Titty Boo. I don't care if it's supposed to be like Tai Tai Boo or TT Boo. That shit's Titty Boo. Club Titty Boo. Wes insists that Lucas heads to the club to see if it's really his missing son, and with his faithful dog companion, Lucas makes a beeline for the titular club. I'm not sorry. The two are initially rejected at the entrance, but thanks to the help of a disguised Kumatora working as a waitress at the club, he soon gains entry and the group manages to get in contact with Duster, who lost his memory after his separation from the gang 3 years ago. That amnesia doesn't last for too long though, take my word for it, and Duster rejoins Lucas and Kumatora in their quest to retrieve the egg that Duster kept hidden away from the pig army before losing his memory. Duster leads the gang to the egg's hiding spot, an inactive clay golem, but as RPG luck would have it, a bolt of lightning strikes the golem, bringing it back to life and causing it to flip its shit. The gang give chase, eventually ending with them getting the egg back, but mysteriously the group is stopped by the pig army, who strangely mistake Lucas for the army's commander-in-chief. Lucas and company are taken to the Thunder Tower, the place responsible for the lightning strikes in Tazmily Village. With Lucas being mistaken for their leader, this allows him and the gang to climb the tower in hopes of escaping, coming across a room full of familiar junk belonging to King P, and soon Facade, who immediately recognizes Lucas and attempts to kill him by having the whole Thunder Tower destroyed. But Duster is able to grab onto a nearby airship with his trusty rope snake, saving the gang from impending doom, at least for a minute anyway, because the rope snake doesn't hold on for very long, causing the gang to fall off. But not before we see a mysterious masked man look on from inside the the flying ship. Lucas wakes up in a sunflower field where he spots the faintly image of his deceased mother, but in a vain attempt to reach out to her, Lucas ends up falling a great deal of height back to Tazmily Village. Don't worry, the haystack below breaks his fall, and if Assassin's Creed has told me anything, you could fall from fucking orbit and be alright as long as you landed in hay. Lucas is told by his grandfather Alec to consult the Magypsies for help, and luckily there just happens to be one bound and gagged near the town square named Iona. She claims she was attacked by an unknown assailant and fears for the safety of her fellow Magypsies, leading Lucas back to Aeolia, the leader of the Magypsies. Things seem fine until an unexplained earthquake suddenly rocks the house, with Aeolia beginning to disappear. Before vanishing off the face of the planet, she mentions the 7 needles and that her disappearance is linked to someone pulling her needle from the ground. If all 7 needles are pulled, the dark dragon said to be sleeping under the Nowhere Islands will wake up, and depending if the person pulling the needles is good or evil, could determine the fate of the whole world. This is where Mother 3 becomes very much like its predecessors. Chapter 7 of the game is sort of like an abridged version of the melody hunting in Earthbound Beginnings and Earthbound, just replace the songs with magical needles. Development kind of halts here, and once again it's more about the individual moments, rather than character interaction or character arcs. To be fair, the game did spend the first 6 chapters on that, and that's a good 11 to 12 hours of the game. It's just a little weird for me that now we suddenly want to head back to the Earthbound formula. At least everything that occurs from this point is consistently entertaining, not just weird, but also humorous, if a bit repetitive. You find the next Magypsy, you locate the next needle, you pull it from the ground and watch the respective Magypsy disappear. Lucas eventually regroups with Duster and Kumatora, and throughout the needle hunting they ransack a Chimera laboratory, all while avoiding the one-hit kill known as the Ultimate Chimera in a cool little survivor horror sequence. They travel to some snowy mountains and fight off a giant mechanical gorilla. They save the returning Saturn people from the pig army and take care of the returning Facade, who's gone through a bit of a cosmetic change since we last saw him. They travel underwater to a remote island where they get oxygen from male mermen breathing into their mouths. They get to the island and have a mushroom trip, and I'm not exaggerating that. They actually trip out on fucking mushrooms in what has to be one of the high points for me in this game, not because, hey, the kid is having a drug trip. No, it's the horrible realization that you have at the end. You think you're relaxing in a hot spring when tripping out, but for some reason your dog insists on not joining you. But then when you recover from your little trip, you see why. That hot spring was actually a pool of toxic shit. That got a laugh out of me. That's pretty fucking funny, despite the fact that, holy shit, Mother 3 has a sequence where a young boy trips out on psychedelic mushrooms. The needle quest soon reaches its climax when the gang encounter the mysterious commander of the army, the Masked Man. After a tough battle, the gang calls the Masked Man and the pig army to temporarily retreat, allowing Lucas to pull the 6th needle in the temple beyond. But as the gang head out of the area, they're greeted by a limo driver that informs them that their presence has been requested by King Porky of New Pork City. And without really hesitating, the gang head inside the limo and head off to New Pork City, a modern utopia of modernness. The true leader of the pig army, the founder of New Pork City, the king that runs it all, is really Pokey, the very same Pokey from Earthbound, who managed to escape to the unknown after the battle with Gygas. He's been traveling through time and space, actually. How, I don't know, but it's taken a toll on him and somehow made him immortal. He's a shell of his former self, not aging particularly well either, but he's still rocking a vicious 5-year-old mentality that's managed to raise an army and build a ginormous city. He challenges Lucas and his friends to meet him in his domain, and it's like a giant fucking game show. What has to be the most bizarre thing about the New Pork City chapter is not the return of Pokey or the scenic tour of Pokey's Earthbound memorabilia or even Super Toilet. It's the sudden and awfully loaded history lesson we get of the Nowhere Islands, thanks to Mr. Letter here, who originally was just a very tall man in the village who didn't talk, but now suddenly decides to speak up, and my god, what a plot dump. So this game takes place in a post-apocalyptic world. Sometime after Earthbound, society collapsed and the world ended, with the Nowhere Islands being the last remaining habitable locales on the planet, thanks to the hidden power of the dark dragon that slept under the islands. The small group of survivors were the people of Tazmily Village, who then purposely had their memory wiped so that they could start life anew and put the Armageddon behind them, all except Letter here, who didn't have his memory wiped and kept a record of everything inside that shiny egg Duster was sent to collect earlier in the game. Life was beginning to pick back up until Pokey decided to intervene and reintroduce technology and the concept of commerce, among other things, back to society, which would eventually lead the world back down its spiral of destruction. Man, am I really just being told all this now? Is the previous apocalypse merely a plot device to help drive home that Pokey must be stopped so that it wouldn't be repeated? Well, if that's the case, I think that's sort of redundant. We have more than enough reason to dislike Pokey. Motherfucker took all my friendly neighbors, which we spent a good amount of time learning about, and made them drooling drones with their CRTs and movie theaters that shows nothing but the Earthbound live action movie on constant repeat. Oh hey, look, it's Tessie. Pokey is also you know, ultimately the reason I lost my mom, the reason my brother's gone missing. Again, there's enough personal reason for me to take this man-child down. Putting the whole world at risk seemed needless in my opinion. What's funny though is that I think this game sort of thinks that too. Nobody, not Lucas, not Duster, not Kumatora, nobody reacts to the sudden revelation that there's some of the only people left alive on this planet. And you want to know why I think that? Because that's not important right now. What's important is pulling that goddamn 7th needle out before Pokey and his masked man does, so let's get a move on. So Lucas and the gang lead a final assault against Pokey, and the location of the final needle is revealed to be under the gargantuan city. The gang managed to reach Pokey and lay a beat down, but the sniveling shit nugget manages to retreat into his absolutely safe capsule where he can't be harmed by anything. Thing is, he can't do anything while he's inside there either, and he can't get out once he's inside, and since he's immortal, whoop! But Lucas wastes no more time on Pokey and makes a mad dash for the final needle, running into his father Flint before reaching the spot, who reveals something I honestly already knew. The masked man is actually a brainwashed Claus, Lucas's brother. I'm sorry if I didn't give that any real dramatic flair, but it's pretty obvious if you paid attention to previous story elements for even just a moment. I don't even know how to begin describing this part. In the game's climax, Lucas encounters Claus in a tense one-on-one battle since Claus renders the other party members unconscious. Lucas, however, refuses to harm Claus, but Claus doesn't let up on the punishment, repeatedly smacking Lucas with powerful spells and physical strikes. It's not until Lucas receives some otherworldly assistance from their deceased mother that Claus begins to show signs of stopping, but my god, it's so heart-wrenching! Lucas refusing to buckle, the mother's spirit repeatedly begging Claus to stop, Flint stepping in and taking a shot for Lucas. Why is this happening? God, and after what feels like an eternity, Claus finally removes his helmet and aims one last lightning strike at Lucas, knowing damn well that the Franklin badge Lucas has in his possession, given to him by his father, will reflect the blast back at him, and it mortally wounds him. The battle ends with Claus reverting back to his normal self before taking his final breath. There isn't much to do at this point but remove the final needle. Lucas pulls the magical artifact from the ground, and then I'm not sure. A large earthquake occurs, volcanoes erupt, and firestorms rain down from the skies in what looks like the end of the world. And then the game ends. Like, that's all she wrote. Shigesato Itoi meant for the ending of this game to be largely ambiguous, like what happens at the end is largely up to you, and normally I hate that sort of thing because it almost feels like a cop-out, like the writer couldn't be bothered to come up with a conclusion, so they leave it to us to save them time. But here's what I think. Like my thoughts on the previous apocalypse in this story, I don't think that really matters. Mother 3 spends time developing a lot of things, the people of Tazmily Village, Lucas's family, Duster, Kumatora, but primarily this story is about Lucas, a kid who lost his mom and his brother at a young age. Starting with chapter 4, when we finally take control of him, we're now on a journey to see how this boy manages to cope with loss and how he grows beyond that. If he does at all, we won't know, but that's why we keep playing. We have recurring villains in the form of the Pig Army, the mechanical chimeras, and there's Facade. We reunite with Kumatora and Duster. This is a nicely written, tightly focused adventure until the needle hunting, where I think Mother 3 sort of stalls, but my eyes and ears were always on Lucas, solely because this game does something Earthbound Beginnings and Earthbound do not. Spend a good amount of time establishing character for our protagonists. Primarily the first 3 chapters that developed Lucas and everyone around him, but Mother 3 still manages to aggravate the fuck out of me when it decides to make Lucas a mute starting with chapter 4. Why this angers me is because earlier chapters established that the kid is perfectly capable of speaking and interacting with his surroundings and other characters, but now silence, no interaction, nothing. Duster and Kumatora speak and have their moments, but Lucas is sort of left hung to dry mostly, and I like Duster and Kumatora. I think they're the best group of party members in the whole series, especially Duster. Again, this is what happens when you actually spend time to develop people. Lucas doesn't show any sign of interactivity until the final battle with Claus, and I hate that, but god damn, is it powerful. Maybe it's because I was starving for Lucas to show some sort of emotional response when he's having hallucinations about his deceased mother, when the mushroom trip makes him hear things he doesn't want to hear. It's not until the last moments of the final battle where the game tells me Lucas doesn't know what to do anymore, and Lucas is heartbroken. That's it! That's the interaction I've been yearning for. You are fighting your brother that's been missing for years, and now I know for a fact that Lucas is shaken. I now know that it's not important that he's the one that needs to pull the needles out to wake up a magical dragon, that Pokey's a jerk. Lucas is just a boy that wants his family back, and with Claus purposefully killing himself to save Lucas and himself, all in hopes of reuniting with his mom, I wept. I shed a tear. I no longer cared about anything else, and I certainly didn't care about pulling the final needle, although I did that anyway because, well, you gotta see what happens afterwards, right? This is it. Mother 3 is the one for me. I think it's the best in the series story-wise because I actually care about these people. I enjoy the townspeople because of the prologue taking time to give these people life. I care about characters like Duster and Kumatora for similar reasons. And even after the prologue, they still get their moments in the sun, and the repeated presence of the pig army and everything they throw at me keep me on my feet for what's ahead. But most importantly, I care about Lucas and his family. What happens to them and around them is the driving force of this plot, and nothing feels happenstance. There's a bit of that with Chapter 7, the giant homage to the other two games, but everywhere else there's rhyme and reason to why we do the things we do in Mother 3, and that's all I ask for. That's all I asked for. Structurally, Mother 3 is very linear, straight to the point where it wants you to go. The Nowhere Islands aren't very large, and everything is mostly centered around Tazmily Village, so even when you do board a train or hijack a flying pigmobile, your destinations are not much larger. There's no teleport spell, let that speak for how centralized this game is. There's no other villages to sightsee. True, it does mean that this world isn't very large, and I know that could be a turnoff for some in an RPG, but I think Mother 3's narrative benefits from it. Smaller locales mean more time spent on story, and if the length of my plot synopsis wasn't telling enough, there's a lot more emphasis on an actual story, on actual characters. And yeah, it's a small world, but it looks great. Sprites are animated beautifully, backgrounds are full of detail, big and small. The best looking and best sounding game in the lineup. This game's got a great fucking soundtrack. It's a big part to why a lot of these heart-stirring moments work so well. I love it when music is used effectively to enhance a situation or create an atmosphere, and it's Game Boy Advance stuff, like late Game Boy Advance for sure, but I think that's damn impressive. Listen to me here rambling on the story of graphics and music, and I gotta tell you folks, jumping from Earthbound to Mother 3 in gameplay isn't as big a leap from Earthbound Beginnings to Earthbound. Inventory is still rather limited, though because the game is chock full of those guys who can hold items for you, I didn't have to finagle with inventory management too often, but the fact that I'm still bringing up a small inventory as a problem for a third time means the Mother series has struck that proverbial turkey with small inventory spaces. Hey, it's consistent, I guess. You don't withdraw money from ATMs or save your game by calling your dad anymore. I don't think your father even knows what a phone is. All that's handled with these frogs, which are all over the place. There has to be like one every other screen, but this is a handheld game, so I think they just wanted to make sure that you could save your progress on a moment's notice. Given how surprising the difficulty of this game was, I have to be grateful. Now, Mother 3 isn't Mother 1 hard, nor is it unfair, but it'll spice things up on a level greater than Earthbound. Some bosses, particularly in the second half, really ended up kicking my ass because I wasn't sure how to approach them. I felt the need to grind a bit, I won't lie. I do think Mother 3 can potentially be more grind happy than Earthbound, but I didn't feel like everything was dragging at its feet. Anytime you're near some hard-hitting but ultimately rewarding encounters that also happen to be close to hot springs, which not only heal you fully but also revive falling party members, go fucking nuts with those expensive hard-hitting spells, because it's not like the hot springs ever dry up. They took hotels and hospitals and combined them into one convenient save haven that doesn't cost you any money. It's great because you can just get a move on. But if you don't want to fight anything, you can more often than not just avoid contact with them, which is much easier to do here than in Earthbound, since Earthbound Beginnings, you have a dash feature. There's no more need for skip sandwiches, and you can tackle the shit out of enemies statistically weaker than you. You can just plow right through them. When it comes to battling, it's about the same as Earthbound. The rolling HP mechanic is back. Lucas and Kumatora can use PSI abilities to dish out magical damage. Duster can inflict all sorts of status debuffs with his unique thieving abilities, except, actually steal anything. And your dog can sniff out enemy weaknesses. The dog also sort of became my item bitch, pardon the wordplay, but since Boney here usually rocked the highest speed between every party member, he often went first, letting me get a preemptive heal or item attack. About the newest mechanic in battle is the musical combo system. The game is a little vague with this feature, but when you physically attack an enemy, you can score multiple hits when you press the A button in time with the battle music's rhythm. Depending on what battle theme is playing, and there's a lot of them, it could be the difference between scoring 4 extra hits to about 16. It feels great when you can pull off a lot of hits, but it isn't an absolute must to get by, so don't feel too disheartened if you can't time your button presses just right. PSI abilities are what you're probably using to finish things off anyway. But learning new abilities is quite odd. Instead of just learning the skill right after you level up as previously, you now have to wait until your character starts growing a fever and then walk around for a bit before you suddenly learn the new spell. It takes a minute at most, but you have a lot of PSI abilities to learn, and it gets a little annoying.
having to wait it out, and you can't even dash while the character is currently feverish. It's no photography, man. There's nothing like that here. You can still move, thankfully. It's just an odd design choice. And Mother 3 already does enough right in my book to not deem that totally detrimental. It's not even a fucking contest for me. Mother 3 is the best game in the lineup. It doesn't feel so obsessed with weirding you out with this or that to ignore conventional storytelling. Not that Mother 3 isn't filled with that kind of stuff anyway, but it manages to balance it out by also giving us a world full of interesting characters that I'm interested in seeing developed. Mother 3 is full of joy, full of sadness. It'll make you laugh, and yeah, it'll make you cry. And you know, I'm probably only enjoying this game on a basic level, but I don't fucking care. There are discussions up the wazoo about the real meanings behind this thing and that thing, the purpose behind the nature versus technology theme this game sort of reeks of in some instances, and that's fine if that's what you really like about Mother 3. I just enjoy it. With the first 2 Mother games finally available for audiences worldwide, I sincerely believe it's only a matter of time before we get the last one. After playing it though, I can kind of see why it's taken so long to be released, besides potential sales numbers being limited to fans of the series, or Reggie Fils-Aimé incinerating those that ask. There are some things in this game I don't see sitting well in the localization process. I wouldn't be surprised if they outright altered some graphics like the Magypsies, the Mushroom Trip, the Oxygen Merman, or they could just leave everything as is and just jack up the age rating. Make it T for teen or Peggy 13 or something, because teens can think for themselves. I don't think this game is exactly ideal for the younger mind. Shit, if I played this game around the age of 8 or 10, I'd be mentally scarred. If Mother 3 should ever actually release here in North America or in Europe, I recommend you purchase that shit and play it. I don't think you even need to play the other 2 to love it. You may miss out on some extra details, but Mother 3 is self-contained enough in my opinion. I'll probably have to play it a few more times to see where this ranks on my top RPGs of all time, but impressions were pretty fucking positive throughout the 20+ hour adventure. I am very happy to have played this, and I hope your experience is similar to my experience when playing it for the first time. If not, hey, there are plenty of other RPGs in this sea. There's something for everyone, right?
My longest marathon followed by my shortest marathon. It's just funny how things work out sometimes. However, I realized that this series of videos may have been too short for some of you guys and gals, so I'm going to throw a bonus review at the end of this series in celebration of the Mother Marathon. It's not Lisa. I've heard that name thrown around a few times, but maybe later, not now. I'm certain 70% of you guys already know what I plan on looking at next time I'm here, and for a while certain parts of the internet just wouldn't shut the fuck up about it, but there's probably a good reason for that, and I think it's finally time I stop ignoring it and give it a shot for myself and see what I'm missing. So, with all that said, I will see you guys next time with Undertale. Yep, looking at Undertale next time because it's Undertale. Again, thank you all for watching. Have yourselves a fantastic night, and take care.